Hey you guys, we're making soup! Honestly, I'm sweating right now. I think it's back in the 90s again in Los Angeles. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to fake it until you make it. So I'm gonna pretend that it's really cold. I have my fake fireplace on right now. And we're gonna have ourselves a little cozy moment. So this is my take on just a quick and easy 30-minute homemade ramen. By no means is this an authentic ramen recipe, using what I generally have around the house. So, you know, don't expect this to taste anything like a true ramen broth, but it's still pretty good. And we're gonna start with that perfect, yummy, soft-boiled ramen egg. And what I'm doing here is I am just putting 4 eggs. I'll only use 2, but I usually like to make a couple extra. So the best way to make hard-boiled eggs, my pan is already hot, but I'm putting the eggs into a cold, dry saucepan. This is cold water. And I'm going to fill this until the water is just an inch above the eggs. Now I'm gonna apply the cold eggs and the cold water to the heat. So we're almost there. I'm just gonna really wait until I see those first few big bubbles. And then this puppy is going on a wire rack. We are gonna completely strip the heat, set a 4-minute timer, and we are gonna dunk it in some ice to stop the cooking process. All right, I'm seeing the big bubbles come through. I am gonna turn this off. I am taking this off the heat onto a cooling rack, so no more heat is emitted, and I am starting a 4-minute timer. 3, 2, 1. So I'm gonna let these cool down completely for about 10 minutes, and then I'm just gonna pop them out. I'm gonna keep them in the fridge. I'm not gonna crack these open until I'm ready to serve. So if this didn't work out, it didn't work out. All right, you guys, I cleaned out this pot really, really well. I refilled it with water. We're bringing it to a boil again. And what I have here, I'm making 2 portions today, so keep that in mind if you're following along with this recipe. This is all for 2 portions. I have 2 portions of whole wheat Japanese udon noodles, and the manufacturer's instructions for these guys say that you don't need to salt the water. I disagree. I'm going to be honest. I've tried it both ways. I do not think that the noodle has enough flavor without salting the water. So I salt the water after the water is already boiling and right before I go to drop the noodles in. All right, now these suckers cook up fast. I'm gonna go ahead and get these out of the way. I'm gonna set a timer for 4 minutes because that's all this takes. 4 minutes. All right, we just hit 4 minutes. I'm gonna drain these, hit them with some cold water so they stop cooking, drain it completely again, and then set them aside so we can get started on our broth. Okay, it's time for my favorite part, making the broth. And again, I cannot stress enough that this is not the traditional method. This is not an authentic recipe, but I am gonna show you how I go about getting the best flavor possible with the least amount of time and the least amount of ingredients. We still have quite a few ingredients here, but what we have is about 2 cups of cabbage. Cabbage is what I like to use, and I like a lot of cabbage in my ramen. But sub whatever vegetables you typically ask for or prefer in your ramen. 1 cup of shredded chicken. This is just a rotisserie chicken. I personally am never without a rotisserie chicken. But if you guys would like some recipes on how to make just easy shredded chicken that you can keep in your fridge all the time, let me know. We have 1/3 cup of coconut aminos. For me, that's a substitute. I can't personally eat soy. But if you are going to use soy sauce instead of coconut aminos, maybe go with low sodium. every time I have soy sauce, it's always saltier than I remember. We then have 1/4 cup fish sauce. We have about half of a medium diced and seeded serrano pepper. If you want it really spicy, keep the seeds in. If you want it a little more mellow, take the seeds out. I have about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, about 1 medium diced shallot, and then I have a pinch of ginger. I'm not using a lot of ginger, and I'm not using a lot of other spices. And the reason for that is I think when you're making broth, using the real thing is so much better. So as far as the spices, I'm just gonna keep it simple because this is what I have, and I don't wanna pile it on with a bunch of ground dried spices. It's gonna just make it really gritty. It's not gonna have the flavor payoff to make it worth it. So salt, pepper, a pinch of ginger, and everything else we're using the real thing. But I'm gonna show you guys how I go about maximizing flavor in a scenario like this. Basically, extract as much flavor as possible in a short amount of time. So we're gonna go shallots first. I'm worried this is gonna be too hot. Let me just drop one in. Oh no, that's good. Okay, shallots. Season every gosh darn step with salt and pepper. Don't skip one, not even one. Now shallots cook quite fast. So we don't want these to start browning. We just want them to get nice and fragrant and translucent. Okay, now we're gonna do our 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. This you wanna move quick, quick, quick. Some salt. Then we're gonna add our serrano pepper. A little bit of salt. Once the garlic's in there, you gotta move fast. Okay, now we are gonna drop in our cabbage. Let's go ahead and hit it with salt, some pepper. Right, our cabbage is starting to cook through just slightly, so I'm gonna add my chicken, salt, and just a pinch of salt each time, you know? Just hit it with a dash, just make sure a little bit, all gets a little salt. So you can see that we're starting to see a little bit of browning here. And once you see that, just a touch, nothing too crazy, you can see we've got just a little bit of brown coming through on the chicken and the vegetables. And this is how I develop that intense flavor, because what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add our fish sauce, 1/4 cup, and then we're gonna add our coconut aminos, 1/3 of a cup. And then what we are going to do here is we are going to turn the heat up, and we're gonna let just these elements really cook down together until it almost starts to reduce and it just gets really, really dark and caramely and rich. And we're gonna do this step before adding the chicken broth and kind of make like a little concentrated umami bomb of flavor in here. So I'm gonna give this about 5 to 10 minutes to just really, we gotta add the ginger, to just really get nice and cozy and married together. And you want it to be simmering through. Look at that. Look at how deep those colors have gotten, how thick it has gotten. See, when I pull away, it kind of takes just a little bit of time to go back into place. That's what you're looking for. You don't want it rock hard. It should still be a liquid, but it's gotten a little thicker, a little richer, a little darker. We are ready for our chicken broth. And now this is also the time that I add these two ingredients, a little bit of sesame oil and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And the reason I wait to add these at the same time as the chicken broth, this is just a personal thing. They're very strong. So I like these to, I'm telling you, just bloop, 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 bloop. That might have even been too much. I'm not kidding. Same with the apple cider vinegar. Just a quick splash. These are two very, very, very strong ingredients that you really just want to have them round out. Whereas the coconut aminos, the shallots, the olive oil, the garlic, the peppers, those are all gonna just get really, really, really deep and rich together. And then the sesame oil, the apple cider vinegar, and the chicken stock all go in last because those are not the primary flavors that we're trying to develop, if that makes sense. It smells good. Now, I always use low sodium chicken broth because I like to control the amount of salt that goes in. If you recall, we salted every single layer. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna let this simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes. It's time for assembly. I am so excited. Everything smells incredible. Everything came out absolutely perfect. So let's talk about putting this baby together. As far as toppings, it's really dealer's choice, but what I have here are some sesame seeds, toasted sesame seeds, some chives. I actually prefer scallions for this dish, but my grocer was out of them, so I had to make do with chives. I've got some fresh flat leaf parsley, and of course, some quartered limes will always benefit you. This is the part that's really fun. I'm gonna show you, well, we're gonna get to it, but I'm gonna show you my little ramen teapot hack. I really, really love when I'm eating ramen, even if I'm making it at home, is to have a nice filtered broth. Traditionally, anytime I go out to order ramen, the vegetables are always fresh, they're crisp. But again, I'm doing this method for flavor and speed. So cooking everything down together, it increases your ability to maximize your flavor. You could always save some fresh so that it looks a little prettier. You could always use whole breasts instead of rotisserie chicken, which will look a little prettier, of course. But I promise you that when it comes to this dish, the flavor, it's there. This is my teapot hack. Now, the reason I do this is because this already has a fine mesh strainer built in. So it saves me from having to, bust out any cheesecloth or anything like that I just really don't feel like dealing with for this. Again, this is a speed recipe, speed version. And the other thing I love about this is if you have some extra, or even if maybe you make the broth a day in advance to save yourself some time, but you're gonna put everything together the next day, you can keep the broth inside this teapot and then just pop it on the stove and reheat it. Now we're probably gonna have to empty the filter a couple times. I think when you guys try this, you are gonna be blown away by the flavor that we achieved in such a small amount of time. All right, you guys, we are all done. Oh my God, it smells amazing. It looks amazing. I'm gonna keep this outro short because I need to eat this right now. Make sure and subscribe if you haven't already. I am no longer going to say I'm posting new videos every Monday at 9 a.m. because I am going to try to start posting more than one video a week, but I don't have the schedule sorted out yet. So definitely ring the notification bell. That will let you know whenever I post while my schedule is a little more inconsistent and as I'm figuring how many of these a week I can pull off. Leave a thumbs up, comment, let me know if you think you would give our little ramen teapot hack a try. Bye!